let me ask you something. Why are so many people terrified of being alone? We're taught that happiness only comes when someone else chooses us, validates us, or completes us. That's a lie. Living alone isn't about loneliness. It's about power. It's about choosing yourself over compromise, your peace over chaos, and your freedom over dependency. Today, I'm going to tell you exactly why living alone can be the best, most liberating relationship you'll ever have. When we talk about freedom beating compromise every time, we're talking about the ability to live life on your own terms without constantly bending to meet someone else's needs, expectations, or insecurities. Freedom gives you the clarity to design your life exactly the way you want it to be, without waiting for someone else's approval or permission. Too often, people stay in relationships where they give up parts of themselves just to keep the peace or to avoid conflict. They sacrifice their routines, their passions, and even their dreams, thinking that's what love or commitment demands. But compromise, when it's constant and one-sided, chips away at your identity. It leaves you questioning who you are, what you stand for, and whether your happiness is even yours anymore. That's why freedom wins. It doesn't require you to dilute who you are. It allows you to fully embrace the life you want without apology. Living in freedom means you decide how your time is spent, how your space is managed, and how your energy is directed. You don't have to explain why you want a quiet evening reading a book instead of going out, and you don't have to justify why you're pouring your money into a new skill, a trip, or an investment that excites you. Compromise often means explaining, negotiating, and sometimes abandoning what matters most to you because someone else doesn't see the value. But when you choose freedom, you keep the steering wheel in your hands. You don't lose days, months, or even years of your life trying to make two completely different visions fit into one. Instead, you invest everything you have into becoming the strongest, most fulfilled version of yourself. Some will argue that compromise is necessary in any relationship, and yes, to some extent it is. But the question is, what kind of compromise? There's a difference between adjusting small things to show respect and giving up the very core of your identity. Many people confuse sacrifice with love, but love that demands the sacrifice of your happiness isn't love, it's control, fear, or dependency. True freedom is about saying no to those unhealthy bargains. It's about realizing you don't need to constantly trade your peace of mind just to keep someone else comfortable. Freedom also breeds confidence in a way compromise never will. When you live freely, you know your worth isn't attached to someone else's opinion or validation. You make decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. You don't worry about rejection because you're not waiting for approval. You already approve of yourself. That confidence radiates in every area of your life, in how you work, how you speak, how you carry yourself. It makes you magnetic, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've built an authentic life that feels solid and unshakable. Think about how much mental energy is wasted when you're constantly navigating someone else's moods, expectations, and disappointments. That's the cost of compromise. You second, guess yourself, overthink decisions, and tiptoe around situations that should feel natural. Freedom eliminates that drain. It gives you the bandwidth to focus on growth, creativity, and joy. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You no longer ask, what will they think? Instead, you ask, what do I want? And then you pursue it with clarity and purpose. At the end of the day, compromise might give you temporary harmony, but freedom gives you lasting fulfillment. It's not about being selfish. It's about being self-respecting. It's about knowing that your time, your energy, and your happiness are too valuable to constantly trade away for someone else's comfort. When you choose freedom over compromise, you choose yourself, and that is a decision that will always lead to strength, clarity, and peace. Peace of mind is worth more than partnership because no amount of companionship can replace the feeling of waking up in a calm environment where your thoughts are clear, your emotions are steady, and your energy isn't drained by unnecessary tension. Too often, people remain in relationships not because they're genuinely happy, but because they fear loneliness or the perception of being alone. They trade their inner calm for the comfort of having someone around, even if that someone brings more stress than joy. But what's the value of a partnership if it constantly robs you of peace? When your days are filled with arguments, silent treatments, unspoken resentment, or the constant need to manage someone else's emotions, you begin to realize that the companionship you fought so hard to keep is costing you more than it's giving. Peace of mind is priceless because it allows you to truly be yourself without the constant worry of walking on eggshells. Living alone gives you that peace in its purest form. You have full control over your environment, which means no uninvited drama, no sudden chaos, no energy spent resolving conflicts that never needed to exist in the first place. You decide the tone of your home, whether it's silence that heals you, music that inspires you, or solitude that restores your strength. No one interrupts that rhythm, no one imposes their moods on your day, and no one forces you to compromise your mental state just to keep the peace. The absence of unnecessary noise creates space for clarity, creativity, and personal growth. It allows you to reconnect with yourself in a way that is often impossible when you're sharing space with someone who doesn't align with your energy. Partnership is often portrayed as the ultimate goal, the measure of a successful life, but when that partnership is unhealthy or unbalanced, it becomes a prison that keeps you from experiencing true peace. People settle for turbulence, telling themselves that every relationship requires work, that friction is normal, and that love means tolerating discomfort. The truth is, while no relationship is perfect, one that constantly destabilizes your mental well-being is not worth holding on to. Peace of mind allows you to think clearly, make strong decisions, and live intentionally. Without it, you live in constant reaction mode, adjusting yourself around another person's chaos instead of steering your life in the direction you want it to go. There's also a deeper truth. Peace of mind enhances every aspect of your being. When you're calm, you sleep better, think sharper, and radiate a kind of energy that attracts positivity. Your health improves, your productivity rises, and your creativity flourishes. Compare that to the toll of a draining partnership, sleepless nights, constant overthinking, emotional exhaustion, and a feeling of being stuck. Many people age prematurely, lose their spark, and silence their dreams because the relationship they are in is too heavy. Choosing peace of mind over partnership is not about rejecting love. It's about valuing yourself enough to refuse relationships that compromise your soul. When you live with peace, you become more aware of your worth. You stop confusing chaos with passion, drama with love, or control with commitment. You understand that love should add to your life, not subtract from it. Peace gives you strength because it reminds you that solitude is not emptiness, it's freedom. It's the fertile ground where self-love, self-respect, and personal power grow. It's the environment where you can actually breathe, think, and flourish without restraint. So many people are terrified of being alone, but the reality is that being alone with peace is far more valuable than being partnered with chaos. Peace of mind sustains you in ways no relationship ever can. It is the foundation for happiness, for health, and for fulfillment. Once you've tasted true peace, you'll realize no partnership is worth losing it for. Self-reliance builds true confidence because it teaches you that you are capable of handling life on your own terms without constantly leaning on someone else to validate you, rescue you, or make decisions for you. When you live alone, every choice you make reinforces your independence. You pay your own bills, manage your own home, set your own schedule, and handle challenges without outsourcing responsibility. These daily acts of self-reliance compound into a deep inner belief that you can take care of yourself no matter what life throws your way. That kind of confidence cannot be faked, and it cannot be borrowed from another person. It comes only from the lived experience of standing on your own 2 feet. When you rely too heavily on others, you subconsciously weaken your own sense of ability. You begin to think you need someone else to solve problems, provide security, or create happiness for you. That dependency may feel comforting in the moment, but it slowly erodes your inner strength. True confidence doesn't come from someone telling you you're capable. It comes from you proving it to yourself again and again through action. Living independently forces you to stretch, adapt, and grow. You learn to fix things, make decisions, take risks, and deal with consequences on your own. Each time you overcome an obstacle by yourself, you build an inner foundation of resilience that no one can take away from you. Self-reliance also eliminates fear of loss. Many people stay in unhealthy relationships because they are afraid of being unable to survive alone, financially, emotionally, or socially. But when you've built a life where you depend on yourself, that fear disappears. You know you can sustain yourself, you know you can handle loneliness, and you know that your happiness isn't tied to someone else's presence. That freedom creates unshakable confidence. You're no longer motivated by desperation or fear of abandonment. You're motivated by choice. You don't cling to relationships because you need them. You choose them because they genuinely add value to your already full life. That shift in perspective is incredibly powerful because it puts you in control of your destiny rather than at the mercy of someone else's decisions. Another layer of confidence that self-reliance builds is the courage to trust your own voice. When you're alone, you learn to listen to your instincts, to trust your gut, and to make decisions based on what feels right to you, not what pleases others. In a partnership where compromise dominates, it's easy to silence your own needs and opinions to keep harmony. Over time, you forget how to stand firm in your truth, but when you live independently, you strengthen your inner compass. You make choices, live with the outcomes, and realize that your judgment is enough. That trust in yourself becomes confidence in every area of life. Career, relationships, and personal growth. There's also a deep pride that comes from being self-reliant. Knowing that you can stand on your own gives you a quiet but powerful assurance that radiates outward. People sense it in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and the way you move through the world. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. You no longer need to prove yourself because your life is the proof. You know you can survive, thrive, and succeed without leaning on someone else's crutch. That makes you magnetic, not because you're seeking attention, but because confidence born of self-reliance is rare and undeniable. At its core, self-reliance creates a solid foundation that makes you unshakable. Relationships, jobs, friendships, all of these can change or end, but the confidence you build by depending on yourself stays with you no matter what. It is the kind of confidence that says, even if everything falls apart, I can rebuild. That belief makes you resilient, fearless, and free. It ensures that your happiness and stability are never at the mercy of external circumstances but come from within you where no one else can touch them. Alone does not mean lonely, it means powerful because solitude is not a weakness but a strength that allows you to fully connect with yourself in ways that are often impossible when you're constantly surrounded by others. Society has conditioned people to believe that being alone is something to fear, that solitude equals emptiness, and that without constant companionship you are somehow incomplete. This is one of the greatest lies ever told. The truth is, when you embrace being alone, you discover that it is a gateway to clarity, peace, and self-mastery. It is in solitude that you learn to hear your own thoughts, feel your own emotions without distraction, and strengthen your identity without needing the constant validation of another. Loneliness comes from disconnection, not from physical solitude. You can be in a room full of people, even in a relationship, and still feel profoundly lonely if you're not understood, not valued, or not aligned with the life you want. On the other hand, you can live alone and feel a deep sense of wholeness because you've built a relationship with yourself that is rich, fulfilling, and empowering. Choosing to be alone is not about isolation. It's about reclaiming your personal power and refusing to settle for connections that drain you rather than elevate you. That is where the strength lies, in knowing you'd rather walk alone in peace than be accompanied by chaos. When you spend time alone, you build a resilience that makes you unshakable. You learn how to self-soothe, how to motivate yourself, and how to find fulfillment from within rather than depending on others to fill emotional gaps. This inner strength transforms the way you move through the world. Instead of clinging to people out of fear of solitude, you approach relationships from a place of choice and abundance. You no longer need someone to complete you because you are already complete. That is the kind of power that makes you magnetic. People sense the difference between someone who is desperate for company and someone who is fully at ease in their own presence. Solitude also sharpens your awareness and creativity. When you're not drowning in constant noise or trying to keep up with other people's expectations, you finally have the mental space to dream, to reflect, and to build. Some of the greatest ideas, breakthroughs, and transformations are born in moments of solitude. Alone time allows you to slow down, to process your experiences, and to align with your true purpose. It gives you the freedom to explore who you are without compromise, to pursue passions without distraction, and to design a life that feels authentic to you. That kind of empowerment cannot come from being endlessly surrounded by others. It comes from carving out the courage to stand in your own company. There's a misconception that being alone means you're missing something, but in reality, it means you've chosen yourself. It means you've understood that your worth is not tied to your relationship status, your social calendar, or the number of people who approve of you. Alone means you have the power to decide who enters your world and on what terms. It gives you the strength to walk away from situations, people, or environments that no longer serve you because you know you are not afraid of standing by yourself. That knowledge is liberating. It removes the chains of dependency and frees you to live boldly and authentically. The power of being alone lies in the freedom it gives you to build an unshakable foundation of self-love, resilience, and clarity. When you embrace solitude, you stop seeing it as a void and start seeing it as an opportunity, a space where you can grow stronger, sharper, and more connected to your true self. Alone does not mean lonely. It means you have tapped into a level of strength that only few are brave enough to discover, and that strength becomes the cornerstone of everything else you create in life. Choosing yourself is the ultimate relationship because it is the only bond you can rely on. Your entire life, every other connection, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, comes and goes with time, circumstance, or change, but the relationship you have with yourself is permanent, and the quality of that relationship determines the quality of your entire life. When you choose yourself, you stop placing your worth in the hands of others and begin to anchor it in who you are, what you value, and how you live. It's a commitment to honor your own needs, dreams, and boundaries even when others might not understand or approve. This is the foundation of true empowerment, because until you choose yourself, you will always be at the mercy of others choosing you. So many people spend their lives waiting to be picked by a partner, by a friend group, by society. They think validation comes from being accepted, from being loved, from being seen. But when you live like this, you're handing away control of your life to forces outside your grasp. Choosing yourself flips that script. It means you no longer beg for a seat at someone else's table. You build your own. You no longer settle for scraps of attention. You give yourself the fullness of love and respect you deserve. That shift is profound because it makes you the source of your own fulfillment rather than a seeker constantly hoping someone else provides it. When you prioritize yourself, you redefine what love means. It's not about sacrifice to the point of self-abandonment, nor is it about clinging to someone else's version of happiness. It's about understanding that love should begin internally before it is shared externally. By choosing yourself first, you set the standard for how others should treat you. You teach people what is acceptable and what is not, and you protect yourself from relationships that diminish your light. In this way, self-choice is not selfish, it is protective. It is a declaration that your well-being is not negotiable and your dreams are not disposable. Choosing yourself also fuels growth. When you stop compromising who you are to fit into someone else's vision, you create space to pursue your passions fully and without hesitation. You invest in your own future, you explore your own interests, and you dedicate time to becoming the best version of yourself. This kind of investment pays back in ways that external relationships cannot, because it builds skills, experiences, and confidence that no one can take away. You stop looking for someone to complete you because you've already completed yourself. Relationships, then, become an addition to your life rather than a necessity, which makes them healthier and more balanced. There's also a deep sense of peace that comes with this choice. When you live for yourself, you no longer feel trapped in the endless cycle of trying to please others or meet impossible expectations. You live authentically, without the constant fear of rejection or abandonment, because your acceptance comes from within. This inner peace allows you to navigate life's challenges with clarity and resilience. You're less shaken by criticism, less dependent on external approval, and more grounded in your own truth. That kind of strength is magnetic. It draws the right people into your life while filtering out those who don't align with who you are. At the heart of it, choosing yourself is the highest form of love because it ensures you never abandon the one person who will be with you until the very end. It's a lifelong partnership built on trust, respect, and care. When you make yourself your priority, you unlock a sense of freedom and power that no relationship can replace. You realize that the greatest commitment you can ever make is to your own growth, your own happiness, and your own peace. That commitment becomes the ultimate relationship, and it is the one that guarantees you will never settle for less than you deserve.